You spent decades contributing into your 401k, you watched it grow, you stayed disciplined, and now you've built up 500,000. And congrats, that's a huge accomplishment. But here's what nobody told you about what actually happens to that money once you retire. And by the end of this video, I promise you're gonna look at your 401k completely differently. I'm Samaya Koksum, certified financial fiduciary and founder of the Legacy Circle, and I've helped hundreds of retirees plan for retirement the right way so that way they go into it with clarity and confidence. So let's get into it. So here's the first thing that happens the moment you retire. That paycheck that you were used to getting every 2 weeks, well, that stops, but your bills don't. Your mortgage is still due, utility bills still due, you still got to pay for groceries, that car payment, healthcare costs, none of that stops. So now you have 500,000 sitting in your 401k, but the next question becomes, how does that money actually turn into a paycheck that keeps coming in so you can rely on it? Most people just assume that the 401k will handle it, and that assumption is exactly where the problem starts. So here's what a lot of retirees and pre-retirees don't understand. While you're working and you're saving, you're in your accumulation phase. You're putting money into these retirement accounts, you're letting it grow. Time is on your side because let's be honest, if the market goes down, all good, you have time to recover. It's not like you need that money right away anyways. But then as soon as you retire, you switch to what's called the distribution phase. When you're actually relying on these retirement accounts, you need to take money out, but the market doesn't care that you've retired. It's still going to go up and down like it always has. And ultimately now, if the market goes down and you need to keep paying your bills, so you keep withdrawing from those retirement savings, now time is working against you because you don't have time to let the market bounce back before you take your next withdrawal because bills are due on the first of the month regardless. And in the distribution phase, that changes everything. Now, this is the concept that I wish every person within 5 years of retirement understood, and it's called sequence of returns risk. So let's look at two people with the same average return, but end up with a completely different outcome. So in scenario A, this person had 500,000 in their 401k, and the good years of the market happened when they first retired. So really their account was still growing even though they were withdrawing from it to take income. And later in retirement, the market drops. At that point, it doesn't really affect you a whole lot because it didn't affect the first few years of retirement. You're still good. Now with scenario B, let's say that you still had 500,000 in your 401k. You go ahead and retire and you start taking out money to supplement your income, but the market drops shortly after you retire. And of course, you've already retired, you still need to keep your bills paid, so you're continuing to withdraw from it even though the market's down and you never fully recover from it. So when people tell me things like, oh, I'm fine staying in the market because it always bounces back. Yeah, of course, the market always bounces back, but the order of the returns matters more than the actual average of what the market's doing. If the market does really well in the first couple years of retirement, it doesn't affect you a whole lot versus as if it were to drop shortly after you retire. Now you've locked in losses that you will never be able to recover, and it completely changes your retirement timeline. And this is exactly what happened to a lot of people in 2008 that were planning on retiring. Then the market had one of the worst years we've seen in a long time, and a lot of those people ended up going back to work because their accounts could never recover from it. So let me break down the real cost of having a bad year the first year that you retire. So in real numbers, same starting balance, 500,000 in your 401k, but then the market drops in year one by 30% in retirement, which 30% drop has happened multiple times in market history. So now you've lost 150 grand out of that 500. But like we said, you still got to keep paying your bills. So you continue to withdraw $25,000 per year just to live. And your new balance at the end of year one is 325,000. You had lost 35% of your retirement just in the first 12 months of you being retired. And technically you haven't done anything wrong. It's not like you withdrew more than you needed to. It's just the fact that the market's going to do what it's always done. And if it happens at the wrong time, that can really affect you for the long term. Now, here's the part that when I speak to retiree clients on a daily basis, this part shocks them the most, and that's the tax problem. So remember that 500,000 that you put in your pre-tax 401k? Well, the IRS remembers it too. They haven't forgotten that all that money, they gave you the tax cut while you were contributing, but when you go and withdraw that money, they are expecting you to pay the taxes at that point. Every dollar you put in a traditional 401k, traditional IRA, TSP, 403b, doesn't matter. It's never been taxed. And the moment you start withdrawing and taking that money out, every dollar is going to be taxed as ordinary income. And depending on how disciplined you were, how much you saved, every dollar you take back out of a big lump sum balance, is going to get added to your total taxable income. So if we're adding that on top of a pension, maybe Social Security, this is when we end up seeing people paying more in taxes than they thought in retirement years, because they didn't account for all that pre-tax money withdrawals to get added on the other income they were already receiving, which ultimately pushes them into a higher tax bracket, makes their Medicare premiums jump up, increases the taxation of their Social Security. It just gets really messy. And then at about 73, the IRS, whether you need that money out of those pre-tax accounts or not, will force you to withdraw it so that way you can pay the taxes on that money. This process is called RMDs, and a lot of retirees don't even plan for it because they've never heard about it. Okay, so we've talked about protection, we've talked about taxes, but let's talk about the longevity problem. How long does your money actually need to last? If you retire at age 65, the average life expectancy is about 84 years old. So that's already 19 years of retirement, but 1 in 4 people end up living past 90, and then 1 in 10 people end up living past 95. Now, obviously, I don't know the longevity in your family. Sometimes it's just genetically built in somebody to live longer, I've noticed. So if your retirement savings doesn't account for you living past age 84, past 90, maybe even past 95, then that can pose a problem down the road as well. Because $500,000 in your 401k divided by 25 years of retirement gives you about $20,000 a year in income, which is about $1,600 a month. But remember, that's $1,600 a month. That's before taxes, before inflation, before healthcare costs. And after all that's deducted, does that really sound like something you can comfortably live off of? Probably not. So let's pause here because I don't want you to feel defeated watching this. Obviously, none of this is your fault. That school didn't teach us how to properly plan for retirement, put money aside for taxes, put together a strategy to make sure our money lasts longer. None of this stuff was taught. But now that you know what the issue is, it is your responsibility to do something about it. There is a solution, and the solution starts with understanding everything that your 401k was built to do, but also understanding everything that 401k can simply not do for you. So what is the solution? The solution is repositioning your 401k into what I call the 3-bucket strategy. A bucket for guaranteed income, protected growth, and then legacy and flexibility, more liquidity. So let me walk you through these one by one. Okay. That guaranteed income bucket, this is going to cover your non-negotiables every month. The mortgage, your rent, groceries, utilities, insurance. This makes sure that no matter what the market is doing, those bills, those non-negotiables, those things that you need are covered no matter what. There's no market risk, and it's guaranteed no matter how long you live for the rest of your life. Now that growth bucket, this is ideally going to be some form of protected growth where you can still get decent returns on your money, you can still earn decently, but ultimately it's protected from market losses. Now, depending on your risk tolerance, this growth bucket can be more aggressive in the market, take on more risk. It can be more conservative, more safer. But I notice a lot of my retirees, they don't want to gamble so heavily on the market anymore. So we usually use this as a more protected growth bucket. But at the end of the day, that part's up to you. This last bucket is going to be for maybe emergencies, traveling, healthcare, right? Just extra liquidity, things that come up. You want to be able to tap into it. Maybe it's going to be an extra bucket you're leaving behind for your family, a bucket that you want to make sure is set up as tax efficiently as possible. But the main thing is that last bucket is accessible. It's liquid. So with these 3 different buckets, it's not like you have one bucket of money trying to do everything for you. You have a strategy for exactly what each dollar is doing for you and how it's best maximized. You actually have a system. So here's what this actually looks like in practice. So if we have that same 500,000 sitting in your 401k, before, obviously we know with the 401k, it's fully exposed to the market's ups and downs. There's no guaranteed income and there's just no protection, right? But if we reposition that into different buckets, say maybe 200,000 into something like a guaranteed income annuity to get that guaranteed income stream established for our non-negotiables, then another 200,000 in a growth vehicle. This could be another form of index annuity where you get protected growth. This could be an IRA, something a little bit more aggressive in the market. But then you have that other 200 for the growth vehicle side, and then 100,000 just for liquid reserves, right? Extra spending money, traveling, legacy purposes, whatever that liquid reserve is designated for. But between all of those, now you have a monthly guaranteed income coming in. Let's say it's anywhere from 1,400 to 1,800, maybe even more on a monthly basis. You still have your accounts growing. It's not like they're just stagnant and depleting, but your principal is protected. You can't lose any money if the market's going down, and you have a legacy in place to pass to your family when you're no longer here. Now, add your Social Security on top of that guaranteed monthly income, maybe add a pension, maybe you get some rental income, and suddenly your monthly retirement picture looks completely different and a lot less stressful. That's what a properly set up retirement plan is supposed to look like. So with all that being said, I want to leave you with this. The best time to plan for retirement is the 5 years before you retired. So if you're already retired or you're close to it, realistically, the best time was 5 years ago, but the second best time is right now, before the next market correction, before RMDs decide, hey, you got to make withdrawals from these accounts anyways, before you go ahead and retire with no guaranteed income floor, not really understanding where that monthly check's going to come in every single month, or even before you find out the hard way what your 401k simply is not capable of doing. You worked too hard and saved for too long to try to just guess your way through retirement. And if you need help putting together a strategy like this and you have 300,000 or more saved for retirement and you're within 5 years of retirement, then use the link in the description below to book a strategy call with me. We'll walk through your specific situation, your numbers, your goals, and actually look at exactly what type of income you can create for yourself in retirement, what strategy, what vehicles are best to keep your accounts growing, maybe for legacy or future liquidity, and give you a clear game plan that you feel confident about as you head into your retirement years. Talk soon.